If I told you there was a property strategy anybody could get started with as little as £1,000 in the next 90 to 365 days, it could be earning you £2,000 to £10,000 per month, would you consider doing it? Well, if the answer is yes, amazing, because in this video I'm going to show you exactly what I would do if I was starting out today to take £1,000, start a property deal sourcing business, and then use the profits from that business to build out an all-weather property portfolio using the BRRR property strategy alongside it. And I'm going to share with you how you could do this with just £1,000. Well, actually, the £1,000 thing was a bit of a lie. If you stay around to the end, I'll show you a little hack where you can actually keep £974,000 of that money in your pocket and actually get started with £26. But before we do that, let's address the big problem that deal sourcing solves, because if you want to build an all-weather portfolio that gives you multi-six figures every single year, you're going to need money, and a hell of a lot of money to build that out. And look, if you're watching this video now, you've probably watched a few videos online, and without a shadow of a doubt, you would have heard these gurus saying, hey, you can start in property with no money whatsoever. But unfortunately, out of all the people with the desire of starting in property, only around 1% of those actually achieve that goal. And why? Think of it like this. How many millions of kids around the world, or just in the UK alone, think of wanting to be a footballer every year? It's around 40%. And now that 40% of children, boys and girls, how many of those kids you think dream of getting to the Premiership? Well, let me tell you, in 2024 and 2025, the Premiership had 550 players. So a really small percentage of them, 40% of kids, actually made it there. You might be thinking, what does this have to do with property? Well, it's a very similar comparison. The people that want to start out in property, they actually do no money down, as like the equivalent of the people that make it to the Premier League. They come to this already with a natural entrepreneurial spark and a natural attribute towards stress, risk, and taking action. But the good thing with property deal sourcing, this is kind of like your Sunday league of the property world. Anybody can just get started with deal sourcing, and then they can use that money to build out a portfolio equivalent to their level, whether they are Premier or Sunday league. So let's show you exactly how you can do this yourself. Step one is what I call the property delta matrix. Before you start, it's important for you to identify whether you are Premiership level or Sunday league level or somewhere in between. And both, it's important to identify what sort of strategy you're going to go with, whether it's buy to lets, HMOs, SAs, commercial conversions, commercials, or developments. And you need to see what is suited to you and your circumstances. Why, you may ask? Well, listen, imagine if you took Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest player of all time, and you took him and put him in defense. Now, Lionel Messi is a striker, if you don't know, but as good as he was as a striker, if you put him in defense or in goal, he's not going to be the greatest of all time. So before you get started, let's do this quick exercise to identify whether you are Messi or you are Maldini. And by the way, if you're not sure who Maldini is, he's probably the greatest of all time defender. So to become a successful property investor or in any business, you're going to need some fundamentals. You're going to need money, you're going to need knowledge, you're going to need network, and you're going to need time alongside that. Them last three deals that I showed you were just straightforward buy-to-lets with sitting tenants in them. The reason I bought them and not another HMO or a commercial building is because I was short on time. So with this exercise, which I suggest you do now, think about this. How much money have you got? Score yourself from 0 to 10 on how much capital you've got. Then think about how much knowledge, and not just videos and book knowledge, how much knowledge and actual practical experience, especially with the buildings element of this. Then score yourself from 0 to 10 on how much of your network you've got, because you're going to need accountants, tax advisors, planners. The higher you go up this matrix, the more network you're going to need, and proven network, tried and tested. You don't want to be trying out a builder on a 200 grand refurb on your first refurb if you have no refurb experience. Also, you want to be doing a 10k refurb if you've got no refurb experience and cutting your teeth on something simpler. And then the big one is, how much available time have you got? If you have got 3 young kids, you're working 10-hour days already, this is relevant to what sort of strategies you're going to be picking. And a lot of people underestimate this. You can do most things, but you can't do everything. Just because you've got the skill set to do it doesn't mean you can magically craft out that time to do it. And then if you're looking at this, underneath at the bottom is what I call courage, confidence, and conviction. You want to score yourself from 0 to 10 on this one also, because what I mean is, how good are you handling pressure? How good are you taking action out of your comfort zone? Because the further you go up this delta matrix, the more pressure, the more money, the more knowledge and expertise, the more of everything you'll need. Because at the bottom, the most simplest form of things is it's boring and it is simple and it doesn't make you financially free at a click of a fingers, but it is a fundamental base that I believe most people should be starting to cut their teeth on, which is buy-to-lets. If you go wrong on a 10k refurb and it's 20% out, that's £2,000. A lot of people has got enough money to raise to buy a deposit, especially in the northeast of around, or the northwest or Wales, which is around 15k, have usually got enough resources, maybe on a card or something, to get out of a 2k hole. That building I showed you earlier on that didn't go to plan, I estimated a £70,000 refurb cost, and it went to £30,000 because we had planning issues. We had to change the building because we went from one plan to another plan last minute. So you need that capital and you want to build that into experience. But don't get me wrong, you might have transferable skills to jump straight up here. You might be a builder already, or you might have loads of this courage, confidence and conviction. You can just handle pressure and stress. You've got quite a bit of money and you decide to jump up this a little bit faster and go to either HMOs or SAs. They do earn more money, but they're a lot more complex, a lot more overwhelming. But the idea behind this for me is if you build up with this steadily, so I've done this very much the wrong way. The first deal I ever done was a development and I lost loads of money. It's way above my skill set. The minute I got the piece of land, I just procrastinated because it was scary and out of my comfort zone. I'd never dealt with architects, big builders. I never dealt with a builder before, even to like paint my house, let alone to do a full development from the ground upwards. And I've done nothing with it because it's too far out of my comfort zone. But the idea is earn some money from buy-to-lets and that gives you the cash flow to do something a bit bigger. And then you just keep on going up this ladder and up this ladder as you go along. So use this exercise to figure out what strategy you should be starting with. As I said, the closer you are to tens, and especially the closer you are with your appetite to risk and the ability to handle stress, the faster and quicker you can extend this. So step two, now you know what sort of strategy you should be starting with, you can now pick a location because different areas are suited to different strategies. You don't want to be doing student lets in an area that's not got a university. So I decided to invest 250 miles away and I started doing this in 2011. And I remember just recently I posted a picture of my first deal in 2011 and a lady jumped on and commented and said, why don't you buy properties local? Back in 2011's properties in Dagenham was around sort of like 125k. But this is relevant to how much capital I had, because back in 2011 I only had around 10k and I didn't have massive abilities to keep on saving money up. So even though the house prices were a lot cheaper back then, it still was at my price range. And price is only one of the factors that you've got to think about when you're picking a location. Of course, closer to home or even at home, if you live in a location that works, is better. But if you don't, you have to make these trade-offs, because the trade-off for me doing it 250 miles away, for example, I'd have to get £100,000 to buy a property local. That was a trade-off worth doing stuff online and remotely of only having to get £15,000. But you have to work these trades out off for you individually. But first of all, identify 3 areas that you think could be a good fit for you. And what you want to do is use informed decisions and not just gut decisions or comfort zone decisions. So once you've took these 3 areas, do this here. So identify 3 areas. Say you said Liverpool, you said Wales, somewhere in Wales, or you said somewhere in the northeast. And then as we already identified, money is one of the key factors in there. What is the price range? Is it within your price range? So with the money question, you want to ask yourself, what do I score this on 1 to 10 with my price range and my abilities to raise capital, also with my abilities, with my knowledge to raise capital. So I do advise you raise capitals, but once you've built up the experience and the cash flow to protect that capital that you're borrowing from somebody. So how much money you got? Score it from 1 to 10. So if you've got 30k or 40k, Liverpool might score a 4. 4, like 1 to 5, sorry. 5 meaning it's really strong, 1 meaning it's terrible. And if you've got no money whatsoever, you just got to look at the areas that are the lowest barrier to entry for you. Then next you've got location and distance. How far away is it? As I said, it's better to do it as close to home as possible. So score it. 5 being it is actually on your doorstep, 1 being it's 4 hours away. I wouldn't go more than 4 hours away. Liverpool's about 4 hours away from me, so that's a 1. Then think about network in the location. Did you go to university there? Like when I went to Stockton-on-Tees, I met a guy that moved from Stockton-on-Tees, that done around 100 properties already in the area. He's multiple prolific entrepreneur. He moved down and met a girl I knew. So I got friendly with him, and ultimately that's a great network because he guided me, because every location has got your Old Kent roads and your Mayfairs like the Monopoly map, and you've got to find the little postcodes in them. You do want major cities, not small towns. All major cities work today. But if you've got network, it'll help you jump forward. So you might have gone to university there, you got family or something like that. So for me, in that area, it's a 5. If you know a builder in the area as your your friend or a property investor, because he'll know it very differently from someone who lives there, that might be a 5. Then you want to look at the potential capital growth of a location. Liverpool's pretty strong at the moment, will score a 4. But then capital growth and good deals work against each other. The more capital growth there is, the less motivated sellers there are. And the less motivated sellers there are, the harder it is to get a good deal. So when I first invested in Stockton-on-Tees, this was like a 1. There was no capital growth, but as a direct consequence of it, there was a lot of motivated sellers. So the buy, refurbish, refinance strategy worked really well. So you've got to look at what you want to do. And again, this question links back to how much capital you've got. If you've got a good job that brings in money, it doesn't matter leaving money in deals. Or if you've got a deal sourcing business, like I'm saying, and you're selling enough deals, it doesn't matter if you leave a bit more in there if you want the long-term growth for it. But you need to work out what the trade-offs are. So we put this one on BMV deals. How good of BMV deals are there? I'd say Liverpool's probably about a 3. There is deals there, but it's very competitive. It's a popular area. It's got lots of capital growth. Then you want to be thinking about what is the rent demand in these micro spots. Not everywhere, because you're going to get these really lower end areas. So you pick out these right postcodes and what is the rent demand. In the right postcodes in every major city, the rent demand is through the roof at the moment. Just make sure you pick the right micro spots. And then you want to be thinking about your return on capital employed. This is the returns you'll be getting. Like, so Liverpool gives a pretty solid one. I'd say about 4, because the house prices are slowly creeping up. The rents don't always follow suit with the house prices, but you want someone that does give a decent return. But you often return is sacrificed on the growth. The higher the return, the lower the growth is as well, because again, higher growth areas, the growth usually outpaces the rental growth. So shortlist these 3 locations and then make informed decisions. Figure out what the trade-offs. For me, in Stockton-on-Tees, for example, it was 4 hours away, so that was a 1. But having that network there was a 5, was a trade-off worth doing. And having the deals so I could do the BRRR was worth that the trade-offs from the capital growth. So step 3 is your online analysis. No matter if you're investing 250 miles away like I am, or you're investing locally, you need to learn how to analyze deals online. Look, picture this. Imagine I showed you this property and I told you this had an offer accepted on it, £85,000, yet the maximum you could pay for this property is £77,000. Would you go and view it knowing that knowledge? If the answer is no, you're smarter than I was, because I used to go and do loads of viewings or pay somebody remotely to do these viewings for me, just to go, hey, they've had higher offers than what I could pay. So what I learned to do, and what I'll share you the script of how you can do it in this video as well, is to negotiate these deals with a principal price before I send somebody to view it or before I view it myself. So first of all, to do a desktop analysis, you're going to need a good software. I use a software called Landlord. It's a phenomenal software. I'll show you a little bit of how to use that in a minute. If you want it, put in the comments DA, and I'll send you over a link to sign up for this for absolutely free. Now you've got your free software, you're now going to want to work out the stuff to pump into it. One of the key metrics you've got to put into the software is what the refurbishment cost is going to be. So a simple way to do this is just Google your location. How much is a kitchen? How much is a bathroom? And it'll give you costs. It'll give you cost of day rates and stuff like that. So you can start getting a gauge. And then what you want to do is, like this sheet here that I've done, is every time you get a refurb done, you want to track it on here so you've got an estimate of the prices. These are only estimates. They do always change. You can't always get hold of the builder that was the more reasonably priced, but it gives you a foundation base to start working out the deal. And by the way, if you want my sheet that I've built up over years, it will only give you an estimate cost, but it give you a starting point. Comment the word refurb and we'll send you over a link to download that. And how you identify it. So say you found this deal, we use Liverpool as an example earlier on. You want one with lots of photos. You obviously can't do this without the photos. And you want to do something I call the KISS. So if you're doing this remotely for the first time, use the KISS refurb, which stands for keep it simple, stupid. Do a light refurb. Properties like this are easy to do. So you go through the photos here of this property and you just have a look. You can see, look, it needs a new kitchen, it needs painting. It's just a light refurb, carpets. You can really get a good gauge and an estimate, because you're only going to offer subject to it being viewed anyway. You're not even going to offer, we'll tell you the script of that anyway. But you're only going to get the price agreed subject to the viewing. And then once you've identified and you've ticked off all the work that needs doing, you want to identify the end value. You can just go on the right move link here and you go to the bottom and you can put recently sold prices are under offer. Have a look here at the sold prices. You can see 135 is a comparable there. So this allows me to work backwards. I know what the refurb cost is, an estimate of that, and I know what the end value is. So then I'm going to go across to my Landlord, and this is great because I want something I can make analysis on really quick before I spend too much time on it. If you don't know you're going to get the offer accepted, like the example already won, you don't want to spend hours doing detailed analysis, you just want to get enough information to get that indication of price. So you put your address in here, you put in it's a BRRR. It's a phenomenal shot. You can get the estimate price of a lender. It's great. I'll do a square if you want it. Put the comparables, the comments, DA footage. I'll send you. We want to work out what our purchase fee is off backwards. So we know the refurb is probably going to be on that property around £20,000. In value, as I said, we can get the estimate here on the end value is 135. Estimated rent, I don't know the area, but at a guess, and knowing Liverpool at the moment, that might be, say, £1,000 for rent. So purchase price, I'm working backwards. If that's 135, I want enough margin in there. So I'm thinking, it's on the market for 105. So I don't know, let's say we might be able to negotiate it down to 90,000, but let's start that as a starting point to start seeing the numbers. I'm gonna put in a cash buy. You can put in if it's a bridging or not. I'm then going to analyze this here. What I'm gonna look for straight away is 22% BMV. There's 14K left in the deal. As a BRR deal, as a deal source, people usually want less than 10K left in there, depending whether there's high capital growth in the area. It's a 2.7% capital growth. But then I can play around with these numbers here on the refurb. I might think I'm going to do a bit more of a budget kitchen. I might not change the bathroom now. I might just upcycle the bathroom. You can play around with these numbers here and play around with these figures. But one of the big figures you want to be looking for is what your cash flow is, and you want to look at what the return on capital deployed is on that, so that you can make some informed decisions. And then once you've got this data, we know this probably works at 90. I'm going to slide this bar around here and go, okay, what does it look like at 100? Because they want 105. Hard to make work, so I'm going to know it's going to work with 9. This is the script you use once you've identified the price that you want to pay with this. You phone up the estate agent, say, hey, Mr. Estate Agent, hey, I've seen this property for sale. It's on for 105. I'm probably going to be around 90K for this. However, I don't want to drive all the way up from the south for 4 hours if other people have already bid above asking price. I know it's quite far off of asking price. So could you give me an indication if they would be around 90K before I drive up myself, or maybe send a builder to look at this on my behalf? So I don't want to waste your time giving me a viewing or somebody else's time, but the numbers I can see it only probably would work at around 90. The likelihood is they're probably going to say no, they probably wouldn't take 90. And in that case, you put it in your pipeline, you just keep following up and following up, following up, because people's motivation shifts over time. If I don't sell that, what will happen is they'll slowly drop the price. And if you stay in contact with them and you've been polite with them all along, you're front of mind ready to snap up that deal. But then if they are open to it, you then view it then. Step number 4 is your compliance. Now you have your location, now you know your strategy of what you want to do, now you know how to negotiate deals like the Wolf of Wall Street. You need to make sure you've got your compliance covered. And this is what you're going to need your £1,000 for, because your insurances and everything is going to roughly come to £1,000. But as promised at the start of this video, I'm going to show you a little hack how you can get started with as little as £26. Look at compliance like car insurance. Picture when you was back 17, looking online on Auto Trader at Fiestas maybe, and trying to get some quotes for insurance. Did you, before you ever done a driving lesson, pay for your insurance of your car? And in most cases you didn't even buy a car. Some people maybe got gifted one, but did you do that? The answer is no. And this is why you don't want to get your compliance before you've actually got a deal, because you going out and looking for a deal is just doing like your driving lessons, just the market research. You do want to be prepared like you would be if you're looking at Fiestas, getting your quotes, so get all your quotes and get everything lined up, but don't push that button until you've actually found a deal and you prove to yourself that you can do it. Because lots of people get compliance every year and never ever get a deal and just waste that £1,000. Also, you can pay back the £1,000 very quickly because you know you've sold a deal, and this then funds you going forward. Being compliant, there are 7 major things that you're going to need for this. You're going to need to register a company or go in and register as a sole trader. You need to be registered with the property ombudsman. You're going to need to be registered with the data protection, the ICO. You're going to need to be registered with anti-money laundering. You need to have an AML training. You need to be registered with the National Crime Agency, and you're going to need an indemnity insurance. The AML part of it is what can be done for £26. So what I suggest you do is get everything prepared, get your quotes, go through everything, fill all the forms out for all of the other stuff, but don't pay for them yet, your insurance. Just pay for the AML training so you're familiar and you understand what you need for this. And then, as I said a minute ago, you pay for the rest of it and press that button once you've got a deal. So make sure you get that proof of concept first. If you want to learn more about being compliant and how you can do it for £26, I've done an in-depth video here where you can go over that.